The Lego sun had teeth that morning. It bit into the city's shoulders, sharp and golden, bouncing off glass towers and impatient windshields. The streets throbbed with motion. Yellow buses screeched for passengers, street vendors yelled their wares, and horns honked like they were swearing in traffic. Inside a sleek black Bentley that rolled down the highway like it owned the road, Jacob Benjamin checked his watch with the precision of a man who hated being late. He was headed to a high-stakes meeting in Victoria Island. Big money, big partners, the kind of room where egos wore ties and words signed million-dollar deals. The CEO of one of Nigeria's fastest-growing energy firms, Jacob was the kind of man who counted time like currency. Then the Bentley coughed. Once, twice, and died. No, Jacob whispered. He pressed the ignition. Nothing. The car sat still as a corpse. A red light blinked on the dash like a warning flare. He dialed his driver. No answer. The mechanic picked up, but traffic was crawling and help was slow. Jacob sighed hard, then stepped into the heat of the Lagos morning. The air hit him like a slap. Dust rose with every passing car. He popped the hood, staring at a mess of wires and parts he didn't understand. He was a man of spreadsheets and boardrooms, not bolts and cables. That's when he heard the girl's voice. "Mom, is that a Bentley?" A woman walked past with a young girl beside her. The woman carried an old black nylon bag, its handles worn thin. Her dress was brown and faded. Her hair messy, but her eyes alert, like someone who knew how to survive broken things. "Good morning," she said softly. Jacob barely looked up. "Morning." The girl's eyes sparkled. "Mom, that car is fine," she whispered. "Keep walking, Jessica," the woman replied. But her gaze lingered on the open bonnet. Jacob, already sweating, rubbed his forehead in frustration. His phone buzzed again. The clock ticked louder in his mind. He was going to miss the meeting. Then, impulsive, almost spiteful, he laughed and said the thing that would change everything. "If you can fix this car, I'll marry you." "It's a bet." Jessica gasped. "Mom." The woman paused. Her stare didn't waver. Then she set the black bag down and unzipped it. Out came a small spanner, some tape, 2 screwdrivers. The tools looked clean and well-used. "My name is Sophia," she said calmly. "Step back, sir." Jacob blinked. He did. She leaned over the engine like someone performing a quiet surgery. She touched the battery head, adjusted a cable, followed a wire with practiced fingers. Jessica watched with pride and nerves in her throat. "Try it," Sophia said after a few minutes. Jacob pressed the start button. The Bentley roared to life. He stared, stunned. For a moment, even the heat felt distant. "Thank you," he said, but it came out small. Then, as if the whole encounter had never happened, he closed the bonnet, slipped into the driver's seat, and drove off. No second glance, no mention of his promise. Sophia stood there, holding her bag in one hand, her daughter's hand in the other. Jessica whispered, "Mommy left." Sophia didn't answer. She pulled out her old phone, checked the video she had quietly recorded. Jacob's face, his voice, the car, the license plate. "All clear." "Come," she said. "Let's go to the station." The police station was slow and warm. A tired fan circled above. Sophia explained what happened with quiet clarity. She didn't raise her voice. She just showed them the video. The officer watched it once. Then again. He called a colleague. Jacob's smirk, the words, "the car," undeniable. "You made a bet," the officer said, and she fulfilled her end. Sophia wrote her statement. Jessica sat beside her, swinging her feet nervously. "Madam," the officer said at last, "we'll invite him for questioning." Sophia nodded. Outside, the heat had softened, but her resolve had not. At the top of a skyscraper, Jacob Benjamin stood before a table of investors. His smile was sharp, his words smooth. "Let's sign," he said. Then the door opened. 2 officers entered the boardroom. "Mr. Benjamin?" one asked. "Yes." "You needed for questioning, sir." "A legal matter." Whispers filled the room. Phones lifted. "A woman claims you made a public promise to marry her. She has a video." Jacob's pen dropped to the table. The silence was enormous. As he walked out, escorted, 100 eyes followed. Some confused, some amused. Most curious. Inside the station, the reporters were already waiting. "Sir, did you really promise marriage to a woman on the street?" Sir, is there video proof? Sir, do you regret it? Jacob hated cameras. He hated this. But there she was, Sophia, sitting quietly in her brown dress. Jessica beside her, holding the nylon bag like it was armor. The officer gestured. Mr. Benjamin, do you recognize this woman? Jacob took a second too long to answer. She helped me when my car broke down, but I don't know her personally. She says you promised marriage. It was a joke, Jacob snapped. Sophia raised an eyebrow. The officer nodded at her. Show the video. She did. Jacob's voice echoed in the room. Clear. Arrogant. If you fix this car, I'll marry you. It's a bet. Jessica whispered he said it. He really said it. Jacob's fist clenched. I won't marry anyone over a joke. Sophia's voice was calm. Then you shouldn't have spoken like a man who meant it. The officer looked up. This will go to court. Jacob went pale. This was no longer about a roadside encounter. It was becoming a legal and public disaster. He signed the papers with a scowl and left. That night, Sophia sat in her small apartment. The bulb flickered. The air was warm. Mom, what if the judge doesn't believe us? Jessica asked. Sophia touched her hair. The truth doesn't hide, child. I've fought storms alone. This one I won't lose. Meanwhile, in his mansion, Jacob paced. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't sure he'd win. His phone buzzed. Message from his lawyer. Court hearing. Tomorrow morning. Be prepared. Jacob stood still in the quiet room, the walls closing in. Tomorrow, the world would judge him, and the woman he had left by the roadside would speak, loud enough for everyone to hear. The courtroom felt less like a legal chamber and more like a stage. A drama waiting to erupt. By 9 a.m., the place was packed. Lawyers murmuring, journalists texting headlines in advance, spectators squeezed into pews built for half the number. Strangers whispered theories, arguments, predictions. Some leaned forward, hungry for scandal. Others waited for justice. Everyone wanted a story. They got one. The moment Jacob Benjamin stepped inside, heads turned. He looked exactly like a man who never expected to be here. His tailor navy suit was perfect, his gold cufflinks gleaming, his hair combed with intent. But his shoulders were tense and his jaw tight. He walked with the confidence of a billionaire until he saw her. Sophia sat quietly across the room. Brown dress, worn black bag on her lap, her hands folded. Her daughter, Jessica, beside her, small fingers clenched in her mother's. They looked out of place, but not afraid. Justice Margaret entered moments later, silver-haired, calm-eyed, and seasoned. The room stood, then sat. Case number 204. The clerk called out. Sophia Daniels versus Jacob Benjamin. The sound alone felt absurd, yet no one laughed. The judge adjusted her glasses, looked over the file, then at Sophia. Madam Sophia, step forward and tell this court what happened. Sophia stood, no waver in her step, no tremor in her voice. Your Honor, she said, on Monday morning my daughter and I were walking to buy bread. We passed Mr. Benjamin by the roadside. His car had broken down. He looked frustrated. She paused. I asked if he needed help. He laughed and said, If you fix this car, I will marry you. It's a bet. I asked again if he was serious. He repeated it. A few spectators chuckled softly. The judge shot them a glance. I carry tools, Sophia continued. I've worked as a mechanic's assistant. I fix a car. He started it. He left. He didn't say thank you. He didn't mention the promise again. Her eyes were steady. So I came here. I brought proof. You have evidence? The judge asked. Yes, Your Honor. Sophia reached in her bag, pulled out the old phone, and handed it to the clerk. The clerk connected it to the screen. The judge nodded. Proceed. The room fell still. The video played. There he was, Jacob Benjamin, standing beside his Bentley, arms folded, smirking. If you fix this car, I'll marry you. It's a bet. His voice rang clearly through the speakers. Then Sophia's calm movements. Her tools. The precision. The engine starting. The billionaire driving off. No thanks. No pause. Just gone. The video ended. The silence after was heavier than anything the courtroom had felt yet. The judge leaned back in her chair. Thank you, Madam Sophia. Please take your seat. Sophia walked back slowly. Jessica leaned against her shoulder. You were brave, she whispered. The judge turned. Mr. Jacob Benjamin, please rise. Jacob stood, trying to breathe like a man with control. He adjusted his tie. His lawyer gave him a nod. Tell this court what happened. Your Honor, he began. It was a joke. A harmless joke. I was frustrated. My car had stalled. I never imagined someone would take it literally. Did she fix your car? Yes. Did she ask for money? No. Did you thank her? Jacob hesitated. No. Did you say the words we just heard? Yes. But it was sarcasm. The judge removed her glasses, cleaned them slowly, then asked, Do you regularly promise marriage sarcastically to strangers? Laughter rippled. She let it pass, just this once. No, Jacob said, flushed. Then why did you say it? I was trying to lighten the moment. At whose expense? Silence. Jacob's lawyer stood. Your Honor, there was no contract. No signature. Surely we cannot equate roadside banter with a legally binding agreement. The judge raised a hand. We are not speaking of jokes. We are speaking of terms. A promise. Fulfillment. A witness. A video. She turned to Jessica. Child, what did you see? Jessica stood tall, voice clear. He said it. Mom fixed it. He left. We stood there alone. Thank you. The judge looked at both sides. Mr. Benjamin, words carry weight. You're a businessman. You know this better than most. He said nothing. This court finds that a verbal contract was made and fulfilled, and that you, Mr. Benjamin, failed to honor your side. Jacob blinked in disbelief. His lawyer whispered something urgently. You now face two options, the judge said. The room froze. 1. Marry Madame Sophia, as promised. 2. Pay her 200 million naira for breaching a verbal agreement with measurable terms. The room exploded. Gasps. Murmurs. A few people covered their mouths. A reporter dropped a phone. Another typed frantically. Jacob turned pale. Your Honor, this is madness, he said. Your words, the judge replied coldly. Not mine. His lawyer leaned in. Sir, pay it. You cannot marry her. The board won't survive the headlines. But 200 million? Jacob whispered. Sophia sat, calm as stone. Jessica's eyes burned with quiet fire. The judge glanced at the clock. Mr. Benjamin, we await your decision. He stared down at his polished shoes. His kingdom, the one built on discipline, money, and charm, suddenly looked fragile, and all of it trembled at the voice of a woman with nothing but truth. Jacob inhaled. I choose the fine. A collective sound rippled through the room, a mix of shock, relief, and quiet victory. Jessica burst into tears. Sophia closed her eyes and exhaled slowly. She hadn't wanted a husband. She had wanted dignity. And today she got it. The judge nodded. 200 million naira. Full payment within 30 days. Or assets will be seized. One final note, Mr. Benjamin. He looked up. Do not make promises your pride cannot afford. She struck the gavel. Case closed. Outside, the press attacked. Sir, did you underestimate her? Sir, how do you feel losing 200 million naira over a joke? Sir, would you make the same bet again? Jacob didn't answer. His jaw clenched. His silence spoke louder than any press release. Inside his car, he sat alone. He had built a company from nothing. He had conquered competitors, negotiated billionaire contracts. And now he was the man who lost 200 million because he misread a woman in a faded dress with a daughter and a spanner. That night, Sophia sat with Jessica on a concrete floor under flickering light. The world was quiet, but justice had made noise today, and that noise echoed like hope. 2 weeks after the verdict, Sophia Daniels sat alone in her one-room apartment. The concrete floor was dusty, the light bulb flickered weakly, and the ceiling fan made a tired clicking noise. And then her phone buzzed. 200 million Nigerian nairas credit received. Balance, 200 million 3,488.27 Nigerian nairas. She stared at the screen like it was lying. Jessica leaned over her shoulder. Is that real? Sophia nodded slowly, like someone recognizing an old enemy in a new suit. He paid. Jessica blinked. He actually paid. There was a moment of stunned silence. Then Jessica screamed. She screamed so loud a neighbor thought someone had died. Someone else banged on the wall and shouted, "Wedding happened for there." Sophia didn't scream. She simply put the phone down, folded her arms across her chest, and whispered, "Thank you, God." But her mind was already moving, spinning fast, sharp, calculating. She didn't see a shopping list. She saw a business plan. Sophia knew sesame, not the kind sprinkled on burger buns in glossy adverts. She knew the dry, dusty sacks hauled across farms by calloused hands. She'd sorted it, cleaned it, bagged it. She knew which seeds were good, which farms lied, which ports delayed shipments, and which markets paid in dollars. She made calls, took a bus to Kano, sat with traders in hot rooms where ceiling fans spun in slow rebellion. She argued prices, took notes, didn't blink when a middleman tried to cheat her. By the end of the second trip, she had locked in her first bulk order, clean, sorted sesame, for export. Then came the registration, Sophia Gold Exports Ltd. Then a warehouse, then a shipping agent. Jessica watched it all in silence, then in admiration, then in awe. By the third month, Sophia shipped her first container to Rotterdam. By the sixth, she sent 3 more to Germany, to Turkey, to Dubai. 1 year after the courtroom, her exports passed 200 metric tons. Banks called her Madam. Journalists called her the Billionaire Slayer. But Sophia never called herself anything. She was too busy working. The story caught fire. From roadside fix to boardroom queen, the Sophia Daniels rise. She took 200 million Nigerian nairas from a CEO and turned it into 600 million Nigerian nairas in sales. The most dangerous woman in Nigerian agribusiness has a spanner and a vision. TV interviews came, magazine covers, even a government grant. Still, Sophia wore the same calm face, still carried her black nylon bag. In one interview, the host asked, "Do you have anything to say to Mr. Jacob Benjamin?" Sophia smiled faintly. "Yes." The host leaned in. She paused, then said, "Thank you." Jessica, now 16, had grown with the momentum. She passed her exams, aced the aviation entrance, and won a scholarship. The day her admission letter arrived, she ran into the house like a storm. "Mom!" Sophia looked up. Jessica handed her the envelope. Sophia read it, then read it again, and then she dropped to the floor and cried harder than she had in her life. Not tears of fear, not tears of poverty, tears of arrival. 3 years later, Jessica Daniels walked across the stage in a white pilot uniform, tall, proud, and fierce. Sophia stood in the front row, clapping like her hands could summon thunder. People stared at her, not because of her dress, it was still simple. Not because of her jewelry, there was none. They stared because they recognized her. The woman who once stood on a highway with a spanner and a promise. Now, standing in a place no one expected her to be. Jessica's first official flight, Abuja to Port Harcourt. She asked for one special passenger, her mother. Sophia boarded the plane wearing a clean navy wrapper and low heels. The same black nylon bag rested on her lap. It still carried her documents, but now it also carried stories. When Jessica came on the speaker, her voice was calm, confident. "Ladies and gentlemen, this flight is dedicated to my mother. She taught me how to fly long before I ever touched a plane. She taught me what strength really means." The passengers clapped. Sophia cried quietly, pressing her palm to her heart. Meanwhile, on the top floor of a tower, Jacob Benjamin sat in silence. He had seen the headlines, seen her interviews, watched the story grow. He had tried to ignore it at first, called it a fluke, a media stunt. But now, she wasn't just a story. She was an industry. She was a name. She was somehow bigger than him. And he hated that, not because she won, but because he hadn't seen it coming. And more than that, he missed her. He saw her again by accident, at a finance summit in Abuja. He was stepping off stage when someone called his name. "Mr. Benjamin." He turned, and there she was, Sophia Daniels. No courtroom, no grease on her dress, no reporters, just grace. She wore an emerald green gown that moved like silk and certainty. Her hair was pinned, her hands relaxed, her eyes exactly the same, still sharp, still watching, still impossible to forget. And in her hand, that same old black nylon bag. He stopped. The hallway fell quiet around them. Madam Sophia, he said, slower this time. She nodded. Mr. Benjamin. He took a breath. It's good to see you. She raised a brow, amused. You sound surprised. I am, he admitted. I followed your success. It's impressive. I didn't do it to impress, she said. I did to live. He smiled. Still, you built something remarkable. She paused. Funny, she said, how something small can build something large. Like a promise? He asked. Her eyes held his for a moment longer than he expected. Jessica arrived, just then, in uniform, hugged her mother, nodded politely at Jacob. Good afternoon, sir. Jacob blinked. Pilot Jessica, congratulations. She smiled, then stepped aside to answer a call. Jacob turned back to Sophia. I was wondering, he said carefully, if we could talk. Not as a court case. Just two people. She looked at him, thoughtful. Not cold. Not open. Just still. All right, she said. We can talk. And that was how it began. Not again, but properly. They met again under palm trees, far from the courtrooms, far from the microphones. The finance summit was winding down. Inside the marble halls, glasses clinked, suits mingled, egos danced. But outside, by a quiet garden table shaded by the late Abuja's sun, Jacob Benjamin sat face to face with the woman he once abandoned on the roadside. Sophia Daniels hadn't changed much in posture, but everything else had evolved. Her gown was soft emerald green. Her hair was coiled back. Her voice, when she spoke, was gentle and controlled, but carried the weight of someone who had stopped apologizing for taking up space. Jacob sipped water. She didn't touch hers. I never expected to see you here, he said. I go where business takes me. He nodded. Business is treating you well. It wasn't business that brought me here, Mr. Benjamin. It was a bet. That stung, but she didn't say it to wound him, just to state facts. Jacob leaned forward. I owe you an apology. A real one. Not just because I lost 200 million naira, but because I dismissed you like you were nothing. Sophia looked at him calm. You didn't just dismiss me. You erased me. After I fixed your car, you drove off like I didn't exist. He inhaled. I was arrogant. You still are, she said bluntly. Jacob laughed. A small, unexpected sound. Fair enough. Silence stretched between them. Not awkward, just heavy. Like the past was sitting at the table too. He broke it. I want to invest in your company. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. Why? Because it's the smartest business I've seen all year. Because you've built something clean, scalable, and global. And because I want to be part of it. She didn't answer right away. Then, you want to buy back your pride? No, I want to back your power. That made her pause. If you're doing this out of guilt, don't. I'm not. If it's pity, it's respect. She looked at him for a long time. If we do this, it will be business. Not redemption. Not headlines. Not a favor. Understood. And you don't get a board seat. Jacob smirked. You drive. I just buy gas. 2 weeks later, the paperwork was signed. He took a 5% stake, silent, clean, with no voting power. The press found out eventually. They tried to spin it. Former enemies, now business partners. Jacob Benjamin invests in woman who took him to court. The billionaire who lost a bet and found her again. Sophia ignored the noise. Jacob, for once, didn't deny any of it. The business grew, but something else began to grow too. Something unspoken. They started having coffee after meetings. Calls without meetings. Dinners that felt more like conversations than strategies. Sophia kept her boundaries. She didn't let Jacob flatter his way in. And Jacob didn't try. Not at first. But slowly something changed. He found himself waiting for her opinions. Smiling at her texts. Feeling strangely proud when she challenged him in board meetings. Sophia didn't trust it at first. But she noticed the changes too. He no longer interrupted. He listened. Apologized when he was wrong. Admitted what he didn't know. One night, after a logistics meeting, Jacob walked her to her car. She opened the door, then paused. Why are you still around? He shrugged. Because I'm learning, and I like who I am when I talk to you. She looked at him, really looked, then said, don't ruin this. He nodded. I won't. People whispered. At industry conferences. On business blogs. Even among exporters. Are they dating? She's the one who sued him, right? Maybe it's all PR. Jessica wasn't subtle about it. One evening, she leaned across the dinner table and asked Jacob directly, "Do you like my mom?" Jacob nearly choked on his drink. "Excuse me? You heard me." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Jessica." "No, it's okay," Jacob said, smiling. "Yes, I do. More than I expected, and a lot more than I deserve." Jessica looked at her mother. "Well, he's honest." Then turned to Jacob. "If you hurt her again, I'll break your car." Jacob had changed, not into someone different, but into someone better. And Sophia saw it, not because he gave money or made gestures or sent flowers, but because he showed up, consistently, quietly, like someone learning how to earn a space, not take it. Then came the night. The sky was a soft orange. Abuja's heat had cooled. The city buzzed in the distance. Sophia sat at her dining table, reviewing shipment papers. The light flickered. Nipa had blinked again. She lit a candle and kept writing. Then came the knock. She opened the door. Jacob stood there. No bodyguards, no driver, just him. In his hand, a small black velvet box. Sophia's face froze. "Jacob, I'm not here to make a show," he said. "I'm here to speak." She didn't move. He stepped inside, set the box on the table. "I don't know when it happened. Maybe in that courtroom. Maybe in a WhatsApp message. Maybe at a port inspection. But somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing you as the woman who sued me, and started seeing you as the woman I couldn't stop thinking about." He opened the box. A simple silver ring. Clean. Elegant. No excess. Just intent. Sophia stared at it. "You once promised to marry me like it was a joke," she whispered. "I'm asking now like it's the most serious thing I've ever said." Silence filled the room like wind. He dropped to one knee. "I'm not proposing because I lost money," he said. "I'm proposing because I found something I didn't know I needed. You." Sophia's breath caught. She closed her eyes, then opened them. "Jacob, this world isn't made for people like us. I know, but maybe we can make a corner that is." Her hands trembled. Then she reached out, closed the box, but not to reject it, to hold it, to keep it, to accept it. Her voice broke. "Yes." Jessica screamed so loudly, the landlord came knocking. "What happened?" "Relax," Sophia said, laughing through tears. "My daughter is just dramatic." "I'm not dramatic," Jessica shouted. "I'm emotional." She hugged Jacob so hard he almost fell. "I still don't like you," she said, wiping tears. "But you're trying." Jacob grinned. "I'll take it." The wedding was quiet. Just 20 people in a garden. A cello playing. Sophia wore white. Not because she had to, but because she chose to. Jacob stood waiting, hands trembling. And when she walked toward him, Jessica by her side, that old black nylon bag nowhere in sight, he knew. He hadn't won her. He had been allowed in. The wedding wasn't broadcast. There were no social media tags, no flashbulbs, no viral clips with trending soundtracks. It was quiet. It was simple. It was theirs. Under a canopy of soft white cloth and gentle light, the garden hosted two people who had traveled worlds apart only to meet again at the most unexpected destination of all, peace. Jacob Benjamin stood at the front, hands loose at his sides, not clasped behind his back like a CEO bracing for a presentation. Today he was unarmed with pride. Only raw gratitude filled his chest. He saw her step forward. Sophia. Not the woman in a faded brown dress. Not the woman in a courtroom under harsh lights. Not the unstoppable exporter of sesame and confidence. Just a woman in white. Simple, graceful, unapologetically real. Jessica walked with her, not behind, not ahead, but beside her mother like she had grown into the strongest part of the story. There was no chord, no trumpet, no choir. Just the soft breathing of a morning that felt gentle by intention. The officiant spoke, not with ritual recitation, but with words chosen for them. Two people brought together by chance, held apart by history, and joined today by choice. Jacob's voice cracked the first time he spoke his vow. "I built my life on certainty, on strength measured in contracts and closures. But you taught me that the heaviest weight in the world isn't gold. It's truth. I once treated you like an interruption in my life. Now you are its meaning." Sophia didn't cry. but her gaze settled on him in a way that made his heart feel like it was finally understood, not conquered. I was broken in ways I didn't know until someone looked at me. Not with pity, but with clarity. You saw a woman with tools, with grit, with purpose. Not someone to fix, someone to respect. I choose honesty in a life that once only knew pretense. Jessica wiped her eyes, then smiled proudly. They exchanged rings that didn't glitter like trophy stones, but carried quiet intention. And when they kissed, it wasn't the end of story. It was the beginning of a new chapter. They didn't go on an extravagant honeymoon. They didn't post luxury photos or captions about fairy tales. Instead, they returned to the rhythm of life. Meetings, plans, shipments, strategy boards, late dinners with warm tea, and unsentimental conversations. Their love wasn't illustrated with grand gestures. It was sewn into habits. Coffee made just right. Text messages at midday with schedules and reminders. Unhurried Sunday walks. Arguments they resolved with patience rather than pride. And laughter, steady, easy, earned. They didn't need perfection. They needed truth. Jessica, now an international pilot, called home every week. "Okay, what's broken this time?" she'd tease on the phone. Sophia laughed and confessed she still forgot to switch off the oven. Jacob made fun of her routines and called them compulsively charming. It became their favorite kind of normal. Then one evening, a message came. "Mom, Dad, I met someone. His name was Dr. Nicholas. Nigerian, warm, grounded, trained overseas, and as kind as a smile can be without showing off." Jessica brought him home one evening, nervous but certain. Sophia observed him quietly. Jacob offered him a seat without dominance, just courtesy. Nicholas shook hands, not grasped them. He didn't compete. He connected. Over dinner, he said, "Your daughter speaks about strength as if it's effortless, but I can see she learned it from you both." Sophia blinked, lost for once. Jacob nodded, proud. "You did well," he said to Jessica later, "choosing a man who listens." Jessica rolled her eyes. "But I love him," she said. "And he loves me too." And that was all that needed saying. Jessica and Nicholas married in a field of sunflowers. Tall, golden flowers bowed in the afternoon breeze. She walked down the aisle with two people on either side. Her mother, courage in flesh. Her stepfather, humility in motion. They didn't give her away. They walked her forward. Together. Love doesn't give people away. It carries them onward. Years later, Sophia Gold exports expanded into hibiscus, ginger, cashews, and fair trade partnerships across continents. Sophia launched a foundation for young women entrepreneurs in rural areas. It offered training, seed capital, and business mentorship. Every year, 50 girls received full scholarships to study agriculture, logistics, or aviation. She spoke at summits about sustainable exports, female leadership, and systems that included dignity as currency. Yet every morning she woke up and made her own coffee just right, black with a dash of strength. Jacob changed too. He stepped down as CEO of his first company, choosing advisory roles so he could invest in startups led by women, young visionaries, people overlooked by traditional boardrooms. He became known not for how much he owned, but for how many people he helped own their worth. Their home wasn't a mansion with surveillance guards and gated corridors. It was a house with wide windows, soft light, open doors. Books lined shelves. Luggage stood ready for sudden flights. Papers scattered like trophies of creation, not ego. They built a sanctuary, one where disappointment could sit, be welcomed, and be healed. Where success was measured not in balance sheets, but in honesty, laughter, and shared mornings. Their neighbors didn't call them high society, just the family that chose each other. And that was enough. The old black nylon bag stayed, folded, framed, and placed in a corner of their study. It was a relic, not of poverty, but remembrance, a symbol that destiny sometimes uses humble beginnings to forge extraordinary futures. One day, a young journalist visited Sophia. He saw the bag and asked, curious, "What is this?" Sophia didn't laugh. She picked it up with measured affection. "This," she said, "is the reason you're sitting here." The journalist blinked, sensing the gravity of a story born out of gravity itself. And she told him the tale, not as sensational news, not as moral teaching, but as a testimony about words, consequences, courage, and second chances. She ended with the line she had come to love. My husband made a promise to mock me. I kept it and built a life out of it. The journalist stared, then asked, "Is that love?" She smiled, the kind of smile that carries storms and sunsets in the same breath. "It's something better," she said. And Jacob? He still smirked when she brought up that morning on the highway. Still said, "Best mistake I ever made." Because some losses become the very roots of your future. And when he looked at her, truly saw her, it was like watching the world wake up for the first time. Unapologetically, unsparingly, unforgettable. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.